Okay, hello, and welcome back to the Right Brain Podcast. Today we have one of my closest friends on here, so we're gonna try and be professional.
Yes, very professional.
But Jen is someone I deeply admire. She is an incredibly talented actress. I look up to her work a lot, actually. But of course, she's also multi-talented, and she's an amazing singer as well. And recently has become sort of a voice for hyperthyroidism, which is hypo.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It's
all right, we'll break
it
down here. They know more than I do. But yeah, and that has been a really brave thing for me to watch, and I'm very proud of her for it.
Thank
you. So this is Jen Cooke, guys.
Hello.
Yay!
One of the things for me is that, since Ellis moved down here, her and her mom, we talk all the time with her. And throughout this journey, she's mentioned certain people come up, their names come up. And of course, as a parent, it warms your heart when she's like, oh, I met this person, I love her, and they're so great. And you're one of those people that throughout the years, that the last couple of years she's been talking about, she throws it out there. And so it's so nice for me to be able to come down and actually meet, her friends and people that, we're worried that she may never have a friend.
Oh, no. No, my parents know Ellis very well. They live here, so it's really easy for us to all hang out. But
yeah, Jen's family has also, we met through our mutual friend, Josh, and Jen was the lead in the music video in another mutual friend's music video. And Josh was like, this girl is such a talented actress. And he knew that I went to acting school, so I went and met her, and ever since just been
besties.
We
always feel so happy after our weekly lunches and dinners. We're just like, okay, when are we getting dinner? We need to do this again.
Yeah, it's pretty adorable.
Thank you for being friends with our daughter.
You're so welcome.
Stop paying her.
Thank you for having such an amazing daughter.
I'll slip you some money afterwards.
This is just getting the Ellis and Jen love story podcast.
That's true. Okay, yeah, sorry. So we'll stop obsessing over each other.
Yes.
Okay, so Jen, we told you this before, but we normally start this podcast off by kind of asking what you were like as a child and what you were like in school and sort of, what your childhood was like.
So I used to go by Jenny, which you still call me Jenny.
I do still call you Jenny.
But I lived in Heartland, Wisconsin, which is this tiny little town outside of Milwaukee.
Oh, wow.
And I was a very curious kid. So always asking why. I just wanted to know. I was so curious. Why? And I was very playful, always was playing and creating worlds. I was very imaginative. And when I was 4, I decided I want to be an actress.
Wow.
I was like, I saw Annie. I was obsessed. Did you see the Annie? Do you know Annie, the movie? Yeah.
I love that movie.
Obsessed.
You talking about the original Annie?
No, I'm talking about the new one. I'm
I didn't.
Okay.
The newer one. It was the one in 1995.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
Something like that.
That's.
Yes. And then so I've learned all the songs. I made my sister do all of the she had to be Miss Hennigan and I got to be Annie, and we just played. And then my friend was on a local commercial, and so I saw him on the same screen as Annie, and I was like, I can do that. So my little 4-year-old brain was like, wait, you can be on that screen too? And so I told my mom that I wanted to be an actress, and ever since then, that's been my dream. So that's kind of taken me through my life. But yeah, as a kid, I was also really fearless. I was like, yeah, I can do anything.
Which you can. I watched it.
Thank you. It's hard to keep that through your adulthood, but I've always tried to.
So did your mom take you into acting at that point, or was it something that just was there and manifested later on? And
so she was so supportive from day one. She was like, Jenny, you can do anything.
Shout out Beth.
Shout out to Beth. My mom is amazing. And she was like, yeah, you really can do anything you want to in this world. And so she took me to Chicago and was like, yeah, let's get you into some classes. And so I started taking classes, and I won this competition called Barbizon. And it was this overall competition. They sent me to LA because I won, and I got signed to a manager, and my family was like, wait a minute, we live in Wisconsin. You can't really do this.
Right.
But I booked commercials. I started doing all this stuff, and then my dad got a job transfer to San Francisco. And so we moved out to California. And then I was able to start to actually pursue acting down in LA. my mom would, it was so crazy. I'd be in school and then she would pick me up and I'd fly to LA with her, do an audition, and then I'd fly back and we'd have dinner.
When you were in San Francisco?
When I was in San Francisco. Pleasanton was the town.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then
How old were you when you guys moved?
So I was 8 when I moved, and then 8 or 9. And then this was around when I was 10 or 11. So I started really pursuing acting and was getting a lot of attention. And people were like, oh my gosh, she's so good. Like the Disney Channel, that was kind of the world I was playing in. And then I found myself missing like school. So then I started homeschooling. And like I was missing out on classes and stuff. And so truancy letters they would send us because I was like missing class.
Wow.
So I started homeschooling. And I just loved this acting thing so much. And then the big shift in my life when I was younger that I remember was, I think it was puberty. It was like a hormonal shift. And we talked a little bit about hypothyroidism. So that's when we think I developed hypothyroidism because I started gaining weight. We couldn't figure out why. And I was just so fatigued and tired. And my hair was starting to thin. And I had we talked about gut issues. I had like these chronic, like, it almost felt like IBS, like it was just chronic. I actually I pooped in the car when I was like 13. I can't believe I'm saying this on a podcast. Yikes.
The nature of our podcast.
Yeah, no, geez.
Show
it all. Right. But yeah, I had these like chronic issues and then it was affecting my acting because I would literally get to the top of the Disney Channel building and they would be like with the head of casting, Judy Taylor was her name at the time. And I was like right there, like ready to go. They were like, oh my gosh, she's so talented. And it was so energizing and exciting. And I had these supportive parents to help me. And they were like, we just need her to lose like 10 or 15 pounds. And being told that as a 12-year-old, I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, how do I do that? So my parents got me a trainer. They helped me like with food and everything, but I just could not get it figured out. And we think it was thyroid because no matter what I would do,
right,
the weight would not change. So we ended up leaving LA. My sister and I started music together because she was singing, she picked up a guitar, she started singing, started trying to play around with the music thing, and our harmonies were really fun. And they didn't really care what your weight was at that age because I wasn't like, it wasn't a problem, it wasn't like an obesity problem, but it was a problem for a character on TV.
Right.
And so, because they couldn't figure out where to place me. And so we started the music thing. And that was an outlet. I really enjoyed it. I mean, we were talking about storytelling. I love storytelling. So music is fun. It's an outlet to tell your story. But acting was always the passion, kind of was shelved for a while. And then the music industry, gets crazy. We ran into a lot of different roadblocks, whether it be people or just like a deal falling through or not. And this carried me through college. And then, oops, I hit that. And then once I got through college, I was like, you know what? I'm a little tired of this. Like, I was just burnt out at that point. And so I took a job in finance, which is so crazy, but I just went to corporate finance in Dallas, Texas. And 2 weeks into that corporate finance job, I was like, I don't think I can do this. I need a creative. I was creative my whole life. Like I said, I was like playful and imaginative, and like acting is what led my spirit my whole life. And then I started getting back into acting classes because I was like, this is what I want to do. So I was working and then doing acting classes. And then the pandemic happened and that opened up all these opportunities for me because I was living in Dallas, but I was able to audition and take classes out in LA because everything was self-tape. And then I had a really good run. I went to LA and I booked a couple movies, did some Hallmark stuff, some Great American Family stuff. Got my SAG card, like I was, on a rock and roll. And then I missed this part. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was like 18 or 19.
Oh, I don't even know if I knew that.
Did you not?
Yeah, maybe you've told me that, but
can I go back?
Oh yes, of course.
So,
sorry, I'm just rambling.
As far as school,
yeah.
How did you feel with school? I mean, did you feel like you did okay and you were good with like reading and mathematics and spelling and all of those things?
That does not surprise me at all.
No, I was the like top performer in school always.
Okay.
Like school I loved being a student. Very easy for me to pay attention until I got to like my late teens.
Okay.
And that's then where the ADHD thing came in. And I still struggle to this day with the focus thing.
So,
focus is hard.
Again, at that point, the main problem was you just couldn't really hyper-focus for a period of time? Like if you had to focus on something like intense, or were you hyperactive? Were you impulsive? I mean, because again, we talk about how there's different versions of ADHD, and that's also, and that label is just thrown out. It doesn't really mean anything at this point. So
it's funny you say that. Anxiety is more what I felt. And I felt anxious about things and kind of like oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not enough. And so then it was like, so then I just couldn't focus, and I would get very overwhelmed.
So did you struggle with anxiety from an early age? Or meaning that, because obviously now you're going into acting and doing that stuff, and almost anybody would feel a little nervous, but you're also excited about it. Right. And especially when people are, not even in a professional way, passing this judgment on you that you need to lose weight. I mean, for a young girl, that's a lot. I mean, and it's interesting because it's around then that you're starting to say that you were getting this ADHD type label, but it really was more anxiety. So can you explore more about like that anxiety, when it first started, when you noticed it, what triggered it, and
It's a great question. I think probably because everything was just so, my parents were amazing. My childhood was so free. I didn't have a lot of like trauma, I don't think. It was just very free and open. And then when I started, being told that, no, you can't do this thing that you love and you're good at because you're not thin enough, which at that age, it's not even the societal pressures, because I was so young. I was still a kid.
Right.
So it's not the like sex appeal. It's not like that point that you're not, I was like 11 or 12. So it was more so like, how do I get this under control? So getting the trainer, and then knowing that nothing would work. And my dad was my parents are married, but my dad was living in San Francisco working, and my mom was living with my sister and I in LA. So he would fly every weekend to come be with us to, maintain the family unit. But there started to be some resentment and some pressure that was happening from my dad, because every time he would come into town, he would see these great casting directors, all these different people being like, yeah, Jen's got it. Like, she's got it. She's there. She just needs to lose 10 pounds, which should be very easy for a kid who's active and eating healthy. It should be really easy. So I think almost the like, I'm a failure mindset started coming in then, because I couldn't control it.
Right.
And now looking back, it's like, I'm like, oh, I wish I could tell that little girl, because I've learned so much about my health, and I'm excited to learn even more. But I'm like, I wish I could tell that little girl that it's not her fault. Like, she tried everything, but it didn't work, and it's not her fault. Right. So I think the pressure on myself.
That's where the anxiety
That's
started.
where the anxiety
and the anxiety there's different forms of anxiety, right? Yeah. So part of it is a sense of danger, fear, something bad. Other is, feel being judged. In others, it might be a fear of failure. Hopelessness, like what do you feel that
probably that third, the hopelessness, when you're trying something constantly and you want it so bad, in your whole family. I mean, how many little girls dream about being an actress? I mean, so many, right? Yeah. But how many get the chance to actually pursue it, right? So I carried that. I've always been an old soul. I've always realized how appreciative I am for my parents, and everyone, like these managers, these agents, all these people were betting on me. These casting directors kept calling me in time and time, and they gave me one task and I couldn't do it. So I think that, it was more so I don't trust myself. I don't have control. Lack of control is probably the best.
But here's a good example, because then that was diagnosed as ADHD, which isn't ADHD at all, right? No. And so did they put you on medication?
They did. So they put me on Vyvanse.
Okay.
And I was on birth control to regulate my hormones, because they were saying it was a hormonal issue too. So I got on those from when I was probably like 18. That to like when I was like 27, 28 was fantastic. My body like dropped the weight like that, kept the weight off. I was hyper focused. I graduated with highest honors in college.
Was that the combination of those two medications?
Combination of those two.
So did you lose the weight because of the hormones, or because Vyvanse actually cut your appetite because the stimulant?
My appetite was great. So I think it was a hormonal thing.
Okay.
And then my liver numbers came back just in routine blood work. Ellis saw me go through this, but my liver numbers just randomly came back, and my AST and ALT were like through the roof. And I'm not a big drinker. She knows that too. Like, I really don't drink a lot of alcohol.
Right.
I take very good care of my body. I was a hot yoga like I did it all the time.
Yeah, the healthiest.
And so we're like, what the heck? This is so weird. And so the doctors just kind of blew it off. They're like, oh, we'll just keep an eye on this. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm healthy weight, making the good choices. Like, what's going on? So I started doing some research and I was like, oh, Vyvanse and birth control can contribute to poor liver health. So maybe I should not be on these. And so I started digging into it and realizing, oh my gosh, Vyvanse is like a serious drug. I had no idea.
Well, that's right. If I can ask you a little bit more, did they, when you were diagnosed with ADHD, how old were you?
18.
18. And did they put you on Vyvanse right away?
Mm-hmm.
And did it help you right away?
Oh, I felt great.
You felt great. So you felt like it helped you focus.
Helped me focus, so I call it my filing cabinet in a pill. Mm-hmm. It like organized my thoughts.
Right.
So instead of being so overwhelmed and scattered and having everything here and me being worried about everything, it was like, whoop.
Right.
It's all
that's a cool
together.
way to put that.
Yeah.
I always put it, any time I took Adderall, I said that it was the drug from Limitless. That Bradley Cooper takes.
And
he's like, that car's about to hit that car. I always felt that way when I took it. I was like, I know everything.
Yes. Yeah.
And so then when did they put you on the hormone?
The birth
control pill? At the same time or at a different time?
That was before.
All right.
That was like a year before.
And did that help when they first went on that?
So that helped initially with some of the stuff. And then Vyvanse was the like catalyst. And then within probably 3 or 4 months of being on Vyvanse, my problems went away.
Okay.
For like 8 to 10 years.
Right.
And then
it caused a lot of liver toxicity.
And I had no idea.
Right.
I had literally no idea what was I just
Well,
was
how were you supposed to know?
How were I supposed to know?
Yeah.
I honestly trusted the healthcare system.
Again, to be honest, whenever we talk about treatments or whatever, you're not supposed to know. Your doctor's supposed to know. When you give drugs like that, it's commonly known in common practice that you're supposed to check liver enzymes on a regular basis because most drugs are toxic to the liver, and especially in younger people, especially in children.
Yeah.
And they don't typically do that.
They don't check. No, this was the first time. I never had a baseline to check my liver enzymes. So this was the first. It was literally just I should get in. My dad had cancer, and so he was like, you need to go and get your blood checked and just make sure that your white blood cell count, everything looks good. So I felt great. And I was like, oh, I'll just go in. And I went in. I saw that. So then I made the choice in February of 2024. I was like, I'm going to get off of Vyvanse. So I just stopped. And it felt okay for a little bit. And then I got off birth control because I started going down this whole path of like, oh, this isn't good for your hormonal health. It can increase risk of all these issues. So I stopped both. And then I went into this like adrenal, I know it's not like a legit term, but adrenal fatigue. I got the Dutch test and my cortisol had like flatlined. And I was having these hypoglycemic episodes. I've never had anything like that before. I would get numbness. I thought I was having a stroke because my entire right side of my body went numb for like 4 days. I couldn't feel it and it would happen randomly. My heart rate was super low. I literally couldn't get out of bed. And my nickname is Jennergy because I've got so much energy. So it just made no sense. It was like, what is happening? And I went round and around trying to figure out what was going on. And December of 24, I was talking to some friends at our Christmas party because I was like, I just can't live like this. I can't do anything. My body is just failing me. I also gained 30 pounds just like overnight and I could not lose it. And my friend was like, you really should check out your thyroid. So I ended up checking out my thyroid. My TSH was like really high and then got a full thyroid panel and it was all messed up. And then I also had a nodule on my thyroid. I got an ultrasound. So I went on Armour Thyroid. And I've slowly titrated up. I'm now at 90 milligrams. And for the last like 4 months, I've been doing great. I've lost 20 pounds, not changing anything else with my lifestyle, like just now having that. And I'm starting to things are starting to click in and feeling better. I'm not 100%. I still get like anxiety episodes or like random things will happen, but it's so much better. And I'm curious to see what you think about the thyroid. Like,
sure.
Yeah.
First of all, who is, not the person's name, but making the diagnosis and leading you in this? And
her name is Danny Williamson.
Okay.
She's a wonderful thyroid doctor here in Nashville.
Is she an MD? She
is a nurse
practitioner,
but then now she turned into a functional medicine.
So she's trained in functional medicine.
Integrative and functional medicine, yes.
Okay.
Wait, before you guys dive into that,
Yeah.
I just want to say that I watched Jen go through all of this and also everything.
Yeah, you did.
Happening with your dad, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
was very emotional on top of all of these things going on. And I just want to say how proud I am of you for where you are now. It was so much. So I sorry, I wanted to dive into that, but I also want to say,
thank
just as a
you.
friend, that you went through the toughest
Well,
time.
it was the toughest time in general because, yeah, my dad was diagnosed with 2 different forms of cancer. We thought one of them was terminal because it was leukemia. My mom lost her mom. She died, and then my dad's mom died, and my mom had a near fatal heart attack all at the same time.
Wow.
And my sister was on tour, like doing her thing. And so I was kind of left there, and then I had no tools to help everybody because my body was failing me. I didn't know what was going on. So Ellis
and the emotional stress on top of everything that was
Yeah.
happening to you, like the fact that you're just even sitting here right now,
is a
glowing the way
huge
you are,
blessing.
is
God has been faithful.
yeah.
Genergy is back.
Genergy is
back,
She
baby.
is back.
But we need to, because there's, and just because, that's what we're talking about. I'm just going to kind of.
Please help. I'm definitely not fixed.
So, what do you know about your thyroid problem? Meaning, what is the actual problem? What causes it? Why do you have it? And are you talking about like an autoimmune Hashimoto's?
So I don't have Hashimoto's. I don't have the antibodies.
You don't have any antibodies. Doesn't mean you don't have it, actually. But
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. I don't have. The doctors have said I don't have it because I don't have the antibodies. But it's hard to trust things. So I use ChatGPT a lot to try to I put my lab work in there or my Dutch test or whatever, my ultrasounds, and I'll just ask it to interpret it from a functional medicine perspective so I can try to understand and ask the doctors in the right questions. But as far as what is actually wrong with my thyroid, so it's weird. I had this nodule.
Mm-hmm.
I then got a 6-month checkup after being on the Armour thyroid for 6 months, and the nodule has dissolved.
Mm-hmm.
So it still says that I have thyroid disease or something on, it's an abnormal ultrasound. So there's something wrong with my thyroid, and I can't function without the Armour thyroid. But it's hypothyroidism, but now all my labs are in range. Is that answering your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the most important thing was that what your antibodies look like, and again, that's not always conclusive from looking at the lab work, because if you have low IgG, you may not produce antibodies, even though.
What is IgG?
It's an antibody. It's one of the different types of antibodies
Got
that we
it.
have. And by far, the most common form of hypothyroidism is autoimmune thyroid.
Yep.
And so, that when you look at everything else, right? I mean, you've had a lot of blood work. So when you look at your blood work, like your breakdown of your CBC and differential.
Everything looks great.
And that's always been the case, even
Yep.
from the beginning, like your lymphocytes, neutrophils.
The only one that was ever elevated was the eosinophils.
Okay, that's a big thing, because eosinophils. So when we look at talking about antibodies, so there's 2 parts of the immune system. There's one part that is more, like killers. They attack when we get infected or we have a foreign invader in our body. And those are mostly white blood cells, and that's under what we call the innate and immune system and Th1 system. And then on the other side, we have antibodies, which is basically B cells. So they produce, antibodies, and they don't kill things, but they warn us and they call in the killer cells. So basically, if we get infected, the antibodies attach to it and basically call in the killer cells, and then they form a memory so that we become immunized against that in particular infection. And what we see a lot now, like where functional immunology world is going, which is really at the cutting edge of a lot of functional medicine right now, is that, and there's always been a talk about this Th1, Th2 imbalance, or this innate immune system Th2 imbalance. And what happens with autoimmune issues typically is that goes out of balance, where the Th2, the antibody system, becomes overactive and too dominant. And that does 2 things. One is you now produce antibodies too easily, and maybe they're too sticky or too aggressive against things that you shouldn't produce antibodies. You should only produce antibodies against foreign invaders like a bacteria, a virus, a fungus, a yeast, a mold, any of those things. When you produce antibodies against things like foods or your own body, like your own thyroid or your own skin, like eczema or, multiple sclerosis or anything like that, it's typically a Th2 system is too high. That also suppresses your Th1, which means that your ability to fight off any chronic infections are not very good. And so you have different types of antibodies that are really there to kind of attach and connect with different invaders. So like IgE is primarily an antibody that should be active when we have like a parasite or like fungus or mold in our body, and that's what it's designed to do, that it calls in eosinophils. IgE attaches and it calls in eosinophils, but when that system goes haywire, that's what allergies are. So a true allergic reaction. I was just reading an article in Scientific American on the plane ride down about peanut allergies and things like that, and how all of the medications and all of the treatments are really geared towards lowering eosinophils, because that's a true allergic reaction where, you could die from it. I mean, that type of thing. Yeah. But then there's other antibodies, like IgG is the most common, and that's for mostly things like viruses and bacteria, neutrophils or white blood cells that kill typically bacteria. And then there's IgA, which is what lines our gut and our mucous membranes. IgM is when we have like an acute reaction. IgG is more chronic.
So do you think that like back when I was like 12, 13, because I've always associated it with it happened during puberty. Like there was a hormonal shift, and then all of a sudden my life changed, my body changed, my mind changed, everything changed. And then when I was masking everything with Vyvanse and birth control, everything felt fine. Then I took those two things away, and it was awful because I was getting worse, but just masking it with those medications. And then now that I have the thyroid starting to stabilize, it feels like my adrenals, my sex hormones, my thyroid hormone, everything is just kind of like, okay, wait, we can just like level out a little bit. Does that have anything to do with the eosinophils and the IgG? Like, could that have happened since I was 12?
Yeah, so a couple of things that you
These
said.
are big words.
Which
I know. I'm trying to track and be sciencey too.
He was like,
there is a test after this for all of you. And especially with Ellis, we're going to ask her to repeat
Yes,
this.
multiple choice. You have to pass.
oh my God.
She's already afraid she's going to somehow get in trouble after this.
I totally
No,
am.
it's perfect. You just sit there and look pretty, Ellie.
Okay.
So I go back even a little bit further, because if hormones or anything, and definitely going through puberty, just like going through pregnancy, it can shift that Th1, Th2 balance, and it can activate things. But, and even in the hormone aspect of it, why would your hormones be messed up in some way?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like, because not every young girl goes through that.
Well, that's what I always go to. Why? Like, why? Why do you have these issues? Where does it start? One of the things you said, which was interesting, that the right side of your body went numb. That's very unusual, and you don't see that with a global metabolic issue, right? If you have one side of your body goes numb, which is a neurological symptom, that's not being caused by hormones or inflammation or thyroid issues or any of that. It might be contributing, but that is when you have symptoms on one side of your body and not the other, and especially your whole side of your body, that's your brain.
Yeah, it was like it was the weirdest thing. It was like I still had access to it, but like not, I don't know. Have you ever seen muscle testing where they like do that? So during this time, I was just trying everything. So I had gone to this nutritionist who would do muscle testing, and I was just sobbing one day because I was there and I didn't have feeling in my arms, so I couldn't be tested. And I was like, what is happening? And
so
never
the
got the
feeling
answer.
Was tingling, or
No,
was it
was
numbness,
like
you literally couldn't feel it?
Lack of sensation and no like it was like extreme muscle weakness.
So weakness, right? Because
Yes.
a lot of people will describe numbness and weakness.
I guess
feel weak.
I could feel it if you go like that, but it was not like the same that I could feel when you go like that. So it was
you felt less sensation, but it was also weak.
very weak.
Okay, that's really important. And it was only your arm, or it was the whole side of your body,
From
and it
my
was your
face all the way. I didn't have the Bell's palsy. It didn't actually droop, but I was freaked out that I was going to, because I was like, I can't feel what I'm doing on this side of my face.
Well, Bell's palsy only affects your face, and it's really only weakness primarily. Okay. But so when you have your whole body, really, for the most part, the only thing that can cause that is your brain. Because even from your face and your body, there's different distributions in your brainstem and so that the only way you're going to feel a whole side of your body is actually really when it's happening in your brain in somewhere. And again, it's not a global neurological issue because that would affect your whole brain.
Right.
So that tells me that there is some neurological imbalance from the very beginning. And the fact that it's hard to say, but that would seem to imply that your left brain was not functioning properly at the level, because obviously if you're feeling numbness, that's the left side of your brain.
Right. My left brain never functions at the level, so don't feel bad about it. That's why we made this whole podcast, was because my left brain is nowhere near the level.
Interesting.
But again, as we talk about from the very beginning, it starts with a gift. And so imagination, especially young childhood imagination, is a right brain ability.
Yeah.
And so, starting from an early age where you had that level of imagination where at 4 years old, you wanted to be.
And dreamed that and made it into reality.
Exactly.
Yeah, took my family from Wisconsin to California.
And then you were really good at it and everything. All of that is exceptional. So we always talk about that. It comes with this gift. Anybody that's usually on this couch with us here in Nashville, it's because they're uniquely talented. That also leads to different vulnerabilities. But what you're bringing out is that these neurological imbalances almost always come with immunological and hormonal, because the brain regulates everything. That's the point we were talking about, that traditional medicine, they really just try to mostly manage symptoms.
Yes.
So I can't pay attention. Here's a pill for attention.
Yep.
Not actually saying, well, why can't you pay attention? And is it actually attention or is it anxiety, right? That's kind of an interesting distinction. And then also, you have pain in your gut, or you can't lose weight, or, why? I mean,
skin issues too. I would always have skin issues and like just acne unexplained all the time, no matter what I would do. And it was like, it had to be hormonal. It had to be something.
Right. But why were your hormones out of
right.
So it's it's deeper than that. And that's why traditional medicine, everybody's divided into specialists, and, they look at one part of your body or one aspect, and they really don't look at how that interacts and never really look at the whole person. Functional medicine, as we said, starts to look at the whole person, but only biochemically. And most of them don't really have any sort of real good background in neurology or the interaction of the nervous system and the brain with the immune system, and understand that the nervous system and the brain takes the lead in all of it, right? So it's the boss. And so when that is out of balance, you have someone with incredible imagination and skill and talent and able to do something like acting. Obviously, your brain is functioning in a unique way.
Right.
But that also means that, and when you're using that over and over from such a young age, that you can create these imbalances, and that can then, as you said, really, hormones or things like that it's like throwing gasoline on a fire. The other thing you said was you were hypoglycemic, which also relates into that as well. So
and the hypoglycemia was so weird. It had never been something I had struggled with, but I would have these episodes during the time that I was really sick. It was between when I went off of Vyvanse and birth control and when I got onto Armour Thyroid. In between that period was when I consider myself just like sick, because it was like I couldn't my body wouldn't function right. I also couldn't regulate my body temperature. So I would
you couldn't take hot showers.
couldn't take hot
right?
showers. I would pass out. Like if I got into hot of a shower or a hot tub or anything like that to try to like relax myself, because I always felt stressed. If I did that, then it would just tank me completely, and I just was like, I'd either pass out or be like on the floor, and I just like I can't move, or I'd get like sweaty, and it just was
like
not good.
Literally faint, like you were going to pass out.
Like actually fainting.
Did you change the way you were eating at the time? Were you trying to starve yourself or anything like that?
No.
Were you going into a hypoglycemic state at all?
It was, so I actually wore a monitor, one of those like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Glucose monitors.
Glucose monitors. because I was working with a doctor that was trying to help me through this. And they were like, it sounds like you're having hypoglycemic episodes, like based on what's happening. And so I would do that. And so if I would take a shower like that, my blood sugar would tank, like, and go into hypoglycemia. And so then we're like, wait, am I diabetic? Like, what's going on? But now I don't have that at all, now that I've been getting my thyroid regulated. So I don't know if there was something underlying, or if it was, I always related it to, hey, what's fixed it is just this hormone that I'm now taking. But there could be something, you're making me think that there might be something underlying that's causing the hormonal imbalance.
Yeah, there is. And even that part where you just said, that's almost like what we call a vasovagal, more almost like a POTS type thing.
Yeah, I thought I had POTS for a series.
And so what's underlying all of that is going to be what's happening in your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system.
Okay.
Because, when you're talking about getting hot and then regulating blood sugar levels and your HPA axis and your cortisol levels, and you said your cortisol was off,
cortisol was tanked,
that all comes down to looking at, what's going on with your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system.
How do you look at that?
One of the best ways is looking at what's called heart rate variability, or even heart rate.
So I wear the Oura ring. I don't have it on right now, but I wear it at night. My HRV is always through the roof high.
Your heart rate variability.
HRV. Yeah, heart rate variability. It's always like 120
So
something.
a lot of what you're describing sounds like in POTS or POTS-like symptoms, the right brain is parasympathetic.
Okay.
And so what happens is a lot of people that are super right brain dominant can have over parasympathetic activity. And that lowers your blood pressure. That can lower your heart rate too much.
Yep.
That's what makes you feel like you're going to pass out. And then if you're in hot, and your blood vessels dilate, that makes your blood pressure drop more. And that's why you're feeling like you're going to pass out in a hot shower.
Interesting.
And it sounds like, and if your heart rate variability is way too high, that means you're in too much of a parasympathetic mode. In most people, it's a lot of the other way around. They're in too much of a sympathetic mode.
Interesting. What do you do about that?
Well,
I was gonna say the reason we do this podcast because he's in businessman mode right now, where he's just analyzing all these things in his head, which I love. But that's why I'm saying that we say all these things, because that's what he does, is helps people change all of these things all the time. So all of this is
fixable.
Yes, 100%.
So I'm not broken forever.
No, we wouldn't be bringing you on this podcast
doctor.
and just See, that's why I am the right brain on this podcast, and he is the left brain. He pretends he's no.
You sound like your mother. You sound like your mother now. Your mother's like I
the
was a right brain person. I'm telling you.
Well, when you do anything for too long, you're building up that left brain, I'll tell you.
That's true.
So he's being like, this
true.
is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whoa. That's okay that's
so
going on.
I think this is pretty interesting for people to hear this, because
it's fascinating.
The point being is that, yes, you need to have a proper exam, but you need to deal with the root cause.
Absolutely.
And that's the issue. And that's what we're trying to get to.
Which you can deal with very, very much happening all the time.
And even, like if there is some underlying autoimmune issue that maybe is not being seen right now.
Yeah.
Identifying, have you done any food sensitivity testing?
I did a food sensitivity. Eggs are really bad for me.
Okay.
And red meat.
Okay. And do you know, is that IgG or IgE?
This is the first time I'm hearing about the IgG and IgE. So I don't know that it could be that I've just overlooked it. But
who did it? Was your functional medicine?
Danny Williamson.
Yeah, so she probably looked at the IgG and maybe even IgE both, because a traditional allergist will mostly only look at IgE. They look at, is it an allergy?
Yep.
But then there's sensitivities.
Oh, the sensitivity. Yes, it did. It showed allergies and sensitivities.
Okay. Yeah. So then are you on a special diet? I mean,
I'm just not eating egg. I really am pretty
completely
strict
eliminated
about
eggs?
No eggs.
Okay.
And I'm really strict about my diet. I try to do no seed oils, because I went down that whole path too. Do you know Callie and Casey Means and Good Energy, the book?
No.
Highly recommend it. It's so good. Talks about functional medicine, and she talks. That's where I heard about the specialist thing of how if you're getting a medical degree, they're trying to hyper specialize you. That's where you make the most money, is focusing. So anyways, she talks a lot about our food system and how eliminating seed oils, trying to reduce sugar, getting things organic, that type of stuff can really help your body as well process. So I've tried to be very mindful of that.
Jen only eats chicken piccata at Soho House.
No, it's chicken paillard.
That's what I said. She only eats chicken paillard at
I
Soho
love
House
it
every day.
it's because it's like no seed oils. It's like this. It's very it's got
Just
little
like a piece of chicken with lettuce on it.
arugula on top.
But, yeah.
Arugula. I can't even say that word. But yes, I've tried to be strict about my diet. But what's crazy is that I've been able to kind of cheat, like have like a little thing of ice cream, or like I can do like some things and still feel better because of this thyroid hormone now that I'm taking.
Well, when you say that, does that mean that you weren't able to take ice cream before?
I just didn't do anything because I was just so sick. So I was trying
so it wasn't that it triggered anything when you did ice cream or
any kind of sugar would.
Okay.
Like if I were to overdo sugar, but I think it was just so much was messed up that anything I did. I mean, I couldn't even like hang out. Even just going and having dinner with Ellis would drain me. Like I'd be like, okay, I can't anymore. Like my body would just be depleted. I had no energy. So I was trying to do everything right.
So without getting too technical, I just want to cut
I
this
want to
in
hear it.
together.
I love it.
So have you ever heard of the HPA axis?
I have.
Okay. So you
Hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal.
Right, because you've
what I was
talked
gonna
about
say.
adrenal,
Yeah.
you've talked about adrenal
Right.
fatigue, you talked about your cortisol.
Yes.
So that's the HPA axis. There's also an HBG axis, and they run in parallel.
Gut?
HBG means hypothalamic pituitary gonadal.
Oh, I don't know what
So
that is.
your sex hormones
Okay.
are produced by your gonadal
Ovaries.
organs,
Yep.
right? And in women it's ovaries and men it's testes, right?
Yep.
So they run in parallel with one another. Too much of one leads to low in the other.
Yeah.
So that HPA axis is driven primarily by a balance of sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Okay.
And it's mainly an anti-inflammatory pathway. So if your body perceives and your brain perceives that you're inflamed for some reason, like in an autoimmune state or something like that,
Yep.
like eosinophils being high, it tries to put the fire out by activating the HPA axis, which produces cortisol or corticosterone, which is a hormone, a steroid that's meant to reduce inflammation.
Okay.
But what it also does is it messes with your insulin receptors in your cells so that over time they don't really respond. And then your body has to produce more and more insulin to try to compensate for that. And that affects where you get these insulin surges. And we talked about how that takes the sugar that now isn't able to get in your cells to give you energy.
Yep.
So you're not getting energy, even though you have the sugar in your body, but it then makes triglycerides or fat, which is partly why you may not be able to lose weight or whatever,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
also that takes a lot of energy to do that, so it makes you feel really tired and
Interesting.
fatigued. But also it doesn't give the energy to your mitochondria, which is your body's energy area that makes
Right.
ATP. But at the same time, when that's happening, then your HBG axis, you're not getting all the activity there that you should, so you don't make your sex hormones at the level that you should.
Okay.
And that's where that gets messed up.
So why would taking the thyroid hormone, like I'm taking the thyroid hormone and then like everything's starting to get better? Is that like covering, is it another masking thing that I'm doing, or am I just covering up a deficiency?
With the thyroid, that's why to me I'd really want to look more into the antibody issue. I think it's
Antibody
got to
stuff,
be
okay.
it's got to be an autoimmune thyroid, I think. And thyroid is like one of the master regulators of like that HPA axis and the HBG axis. So it plays kind of like a supervisory role. But all of it, is being regulated by the brain.
By the brain.
And so if you have the parasympathetic is what typically triggers the HPA axis, and it's more anti-inflammatory.
Yep.
The left brain and the sympathetic is usually more inflammatory. So if you had some inflammation, if you're already really super right brain, if you're already too much in a parasympathetic mode, and you're now pumping out too much HPA, that's messing with your blood sugar, that's messing with your hormones, and that may be lowering your blood pressure. And then at the same time, if you have this Th2 dominance, you're producing antibodies maybe against your thyroid and other parts of your body. So I think that
taking the thyroid then calms all that other stuff down, but there could be something that's the root cause.
Right,
of why
you're dealing
my
with the
thyroid
symptom, but you're not dealing with the root cause.
Got it. Okay.
I don't think the root cause
is the thyroid.
Right.
Okay.
And the problem is that if you do have antibodies in there, you do have a Th2 dominance, when you're taking Ormothyroid or a thyroid medication, it activates your thyroid, which will then activate the antibodies more.
Interesting. So
right?
It's actually making the problem worse.
It could, yes. And that's why it often fluctuates.
Great.
That's where you might go into a hyperthyroid and then hypothyroid and hyper and then hypo. So, so that's the thing. I think that there's just a deeper, I think so far you're doing a great job. It's helping you and you're going down the road.
I'm just doing my best, right? Trying to figure, it's a complicated thing. And we have so many endocrine disruptors in our environment now.
Right.
I mean, just literally, Ellis and I, we wear makeup, we wear deodorant, we wear perfume, we wear these things. And
not me.
Hopefully.
I'm just naturally.
You're just natural. Natural is beautiful and smell this good. No. But I've tried to change everything to be more natural and look at the Yucca app or Yucca app.
Yes, I showed you guys that. They don't give me credit for that, but I'm the one that showed you.
It's good job. Good job.
You.
But
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's an
Mom
app
does it for
that
you.
Mom. Okay.
You scan things. It's really helpful because we don't when you're reading through the long ingredient list of things, you don't know that's an endocrine disruptor. You don't know what all these chemicals are. So this app has consolidated all of it, so it gives you a score. So there's certain deodorants that would be bad. Do not put this on your body. It's a really bad endocrine disruptor. It's it could cause cancer. It could cause all these problems. But the cleaner the ingredients, one deodorant's not going to kill you, but if we're putting a gazillion things on, it can my understanding is that it can just disrupt things because what we put on our body, we're putting in our body.
Yeah.
So I've tried to limit all that stuff. I've tried to, but I haven't taken this perspective of that it could be an issue with my brain that's causing the thyroid. I've just been I was just deficient in this hormone, but there could be something even deeper. So what would be your recommendation on how to actually dive into that? Figure that out.
Right now, you need a proper examination by somebody. I need to start a center down here in Nashville.
Yes,
you're coming to Long Island, Jen.
Because we really either that or we need to set a separate day where I can just examine all our friends here.
Yeah.
Just because you really need, you need to go through a history, and we're talking about that. I have a checklist that would be great for you to fill out. And then, do you startle easily?
Startle?
If you hear a loud noise or anything or something, do you jump
That's interesting. Yeah, I do.
Okay. So usually when somebody has a really hyper startle response, it usually means that they have a lot of their primitive reflexes still there.
Okay.
And for me, that really speaks to the foundational issue.
Okay.
Do you know, I'm assuming that as far as you know, everything was on time in childhood for you. You crawled, you walked, you did all those milestones.
Yep.
You spoke at the right time. And
early, I think.
Early.
Yeah.
Too early? Do you know?
Maybe too early. My mom was always there was this story of I was a very little, probably 3 maybe. And I was in the elevator and I just go, floor 4, please. And someone's wait, where is this coming from? And it was this little girl. That's not the most me thing ever.
Yeah, that sounds
but
exactly
so
like
I don't know. I'd have to ask my mom if it was too early, but she always was yeah, it was weird because I was doing commercials then at a really young age because I was super articulate and could memorize lines and do things. So my brain was working not in the traditional 4 or 5-year-old way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, those are things that we could talk more about, but there's a lot around this.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're working with somebody that's great, but layering the neurology on there and layering a little bit more, specific even supplements and things that can be done.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's so interesting because like Ellis mentioned at the beginning of this, I've been sharing this journey openly because it's kind of been, I started dating this girl who's got so many people that follow her and watch her. So then they've started to follow my journey. And so they've been wanting to get to know who am I? And I was well, who I am right now is somebody who's really fighting for my life, really, and my health and trying to do that. So I've been doing that publicly. And I think that's been something that people have really related on because I'll get comments and comments of people saying, oh my gosh, I have this too. How do you get your life back? How do you get this? And so I always preface it with, I'm not a doctor. I'm not somebody who is an expert in this. I'm just a patient and somebody who's trying to be the CEO of my own health and take it into my own hands to talk with different people who do know what they're talking about and learn and then share what I learn. So anything that I can learn to try to share with the other people that are struggling with it that may not have the access to people like you is helpful.
Do you ever go to New York?
I will.
You're coming to New York, baby.
I will.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing would be to come see me in New York and
Yeah,
let me actually personally do a proper exam on you and look at your blood work and all of that stuff. And
I honestly think, Ellis, I might do that. We might need to take a little girls trip up to New York.
I've been asking you to come to New York
I know.
since the day I met you.
We should do that. That would be really great. And I think sharing with people too, like
the whole process too.
Yeah, and this podcast that y'all are doing is so helpful, I'm sure, to so many people because we don't know, and a lot of us don't have the tools, and we're so busy doing things in our own lives that we're not. And this, as I've learned, stops you. Like I had to step away from acting in my age. I had my first acting class again on Monday, so I'm finally getting back to it. But for a while, I was just like, when you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Right.
And so your brain health too, there can be so many creatives. I mean, y'all probably talk to so many creatives that this gets in the way of their art and their ability to make their mark on the world. And so what y'all are doing is really life-changing.
Thanks, Jen.
No, it really is. Seriously.
Well, that's the point. And it's all driven by her and her compassion and her desire to get out there and be brave and talk about her own struggles. But we just want to get like real information out there, but really at the highest level, because especially what drives me crazy is I see all these people on Instagram and everything, and there's all these people, these so-called experts saying stuff, and I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. What you're saying right now is actually completely wrong. And they're like, whoa, I do this, and it's like, who is this person? And
well, it's also not one size fits all. So like what's working for one person may not work for another person. And so any of us to claim, like I know for me with Armour Thyroid, it like, oh my gosh, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love Armour Thyroid. But at the same time, it's important to consider too, like that might not even be hitting the root cause, that's why I'm very curious. That's one of my big takeaways from this, but also other people may not benefit from Armour Thyroid the same way. So I'd be silly to be like, Armour Thyroid changes your life and it fixes all your problems.
But that's a perfect example. You get somebody who, whatever, is an influencer or somebody, doing the biohacking world or whatever, and they had one experience and it was like, I took this supplement and it changed my life. That doesn't mean that's going to happen with anybody else. No. But then they put it out there like, okay, this is the cure for this.
And influencing by itself is people are wanting to be like you. So if you're like, oh, I use this for me, so I'm going to sell you this. So that's not helpful in this world.
And it might actually do the exact opposite and make that person actually really bad. So
well, that's why I think, I mean, I've asked you to come on this podcast for a while now.
I know.
But I know it took a little while, but I'm just like so happy that you're on here because I met you just admiring your talent and seeing everything that you were doing, and that speaks for itself. But then on top of it, for you to be going through all of this behind the scenes and then be brave enough to be so open and honest about it and helpful for people, like there's everything you've said on here today. First of all, you sound so smart. I didn't know what anything you guys were talking about, but like it just shows the initiative you've taken to like help yourself, but then also that you're open to it. And I've been being told my whole life, whenever I do something, my dad's like, your brain, there's something wrong with that. So I'm used to it. But so I know when he's
your brain, Alice.
I know when he's like when he's like saying these things, it might sound like, wow, that's a lot of things. But he's saying it all because he knows also how it can change and how to help yourself. So that's why it's a very positive thing, all of the things that he's
absolutely.
saying
and I think too, coming
feel like she has to like make an excuse
I'm just saying, I'm not making an excuse for you. I'm very proud of you.
He's like, I'm just telling you all the truth.
I'm sorry. My father's such a nerd and he won't shut up about things.
I'm happy you said all the things you said, and so is she, I'm sure. But I'm just saying in general that like all the things you're saying are things that are able to be improved, which is why you're saying that.
Absolutely.
I think it's helpful too to come to the table, like anyone who's struggling with something, like really trying to know yourself and know what you've gone through, because it's and also do the research so I can track with what you're saying, like HPA axis. Like if I didn't know what that was, it wouldn't land as much in me. Like I feel like it's landing a little bit more. So I know now, oh, these are some questions I'm going to ask my doctor. And I'm excited to come actually work with you too in New York, hopefully. But knowing knowing your health, I feel like a lot of us don't know our health. Like I know certainly for me, prior to all this health stuff, so 27 years old and younger, I had no idea about my health. I was just like, oh yeah, my doctor, I go to my doctor, they tell me my blood pressure's fine, my this is fine, whatever. I take these medications, I'm good, but I'm never really owning my health.
Right.
And it's so important. This vessel is what allows me to do anything in this world. So I need to take care of it.
And even
know
for the
it.
average person, the part of our health that we know the least about is actually our brain. Like, we know more about, you might know more about your thyroid and your heart and whatever than you do about your own brain and how it works, or, what your type of style of thinking is, or, are you a right brain or left brain dominant person, which is really important to know. So that's where, and the brain is the most important aspect for your body and your health. It's not always the root cause, but, when you're dealing with people that are uniquely really good at something, their brain is operating at a certain level. And so, you got to take a Ferrari to the shop a lot more than you do a Toyota, right? Because
I love
you're
that.
a Ferrari, Jen.
I think he's calling me a Ferrari.
Pretty sure that's what just
No,
happened.
but I feel like as creatives too, we're getting to share something more with the world than somebody who maybe isn't creative. So I see what you're saying. Like, we're getting to share something
right.
that we're pulling out of thin air. Like, creatives are creating something brand new. So it is special. Yeah, we're special. We're messed up, but we're special.
And one last thing, because again, a lot of people always try to put all the blame on genetics as well.
Yeah.
But anybody in your family have these same issues at all?
Hypothyroidism?
Or any,
Everyone.
Everybody does.
Mom, dad, maternal and paternal grandfathers and grandmothers, everybody was on some kind of armor or NP thyroid.
And your sister too?
My sister isn't. She has not gone through the hormonal shift yet. She's still kind of on the birth control journey. She's talking about wanting to get off of it, but she's terrified since my journey, and her career is at a place where she can't take time off like I did.
Right. Yeah, so that's another interesting layer to look at.
Yeah, that will be an interesting layer. She's got the ADHD thing though.
Yeah.
Or
well, again,
so-called the diagnosed.
Yeah, exactly. But so
she's another very talented creative who does a lot, but yes, definitely struggles with the OCD. I wish I'd get her on here too sometime.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because I told you OCD is like my like I struggled with that my whole life.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, and Jen, thank you.
And Luke Combs came out recently and said he struggles
OCD?
with that big time. Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you for being so open.
Oh,
thank you for being
such a privilege to be here with you guys.
Yeah. I love you with all of my heart.
I love you.
And yeah, until next time.
Until next time.
It was so great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Love you, honey.
Love you, Dad.